You know the old cliche about imitation being the sincerest form of flattery? Safe to say, Zohran Mamdani's campaigning and governing style has inspired a lot of flattery.
If I was the mayor, I'd be working with city council from day one to make halal $8 again.
So when you walk into the voting booth next November, remember this $25 turkey leg.
We've seen a lot of vertical video from Democratic politicians across the country. Every day now I see a vertical video from the mayor, the latest one unveiling his new plan to tax wealthy people's second homes in the city.
When I ran for mayor, I said I was going to tax the rich. Well, today, we're taxing the rich. As mayor, I believe everyone has a role to play in contributing to our city, and some a little bit more than others.
Mayor Zohran Mamdani is back with me, and joining us are Catherine Wild, former president and CEO of the Pro-Business Partnership for New York City, who also worked on the mayor's transition team, and Morris Pearl, chairman of the board at Patriotic Millionaires. Good to have you all here. Let me just start on the vertical video. It's been striking, right? It was obviously very effective as a campaign tool, and sometimes there's a little bit of this sense that, like, well, now we have the job, we're in a different mode. It feels like you're kind of still in campaign mode. Like, I'm still seeing a lot of vertical video, social media. Is that on purpose?
We want to use every tool we have to actually reach New Yorkers. A lot of times in politics, it feels like you're just speaking in an echo chamber. And New Yorkers are very busy. They don't have time to tune into the exact way you want them to listen to you. You have to reach out to the way that they're engaging with the world. And I think about the greatest mayor in our city's history, Fiorello LaGuardia. One of the hallmarks of his approach was the use of the cutting-edge technology of the time to reach out to every New Yorker. That's what we're looking to do. For all the focus on the medium, though, I would say that sometimes the message does get lost.
Well, the message in the latest one is that we're going to tax the rich. You said we're going to tax the rich. We're taxing the rich. You announced this new tax that's going to be on second homes worth over $5 million, I think.
Yes.
Catherine, I know that a lot of folks at the partnership were very nervous about the tax the rich agenda of the mayor. What do you think of this new tax?
Well, in general, taxes should not be presented as punitive. And I think generally the taxpayers feel that if they have a legitimate reason for raising a tax. At the partnership, we supported, for example, congestion pricing to support the funding of the MTA. We supported when Mayor Bloomberg, after 9/11, had to raise the real estate tax to be able to bring back the city's services after the damages, rebuild Lower Manhattan. We supported that tax. So we were not knee-jerk anti-tax, but it was being clear that this is not punishment. This is something that's needed. The city has taken every step they can, or the state, to save money where they can, to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, and then to have a conversation and a process about what makes the most sense, what's fairest in terms of tax increases, and to make sure it's going, as the mayor said earlier, that it's going to a good cause.
But this does, I mean, the whole thing of people chanting tax the rich at the rallies, which they did, and putting out a video is like, there's a little bit of it's punitive.
A little red meat there.
It is, well, it is punitive, right?
Well, you have to eat healthy. You can't only eat red meat.
I mean, there is something a little punitive about it.
I think what it's a reflection of is that we're speaking about a city that's the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And 1 in 4 New Yorkers are living in poverty. We're speaking about people who can't afford their basics. Our vision of a city is not one where we push anybody out of it. Our vision, rather, is one where there's room for everybody to stay here. Because for all of the back and forth about the question of capital flight, and when we have a disagreement around fiscal policy, a lot of times it will come to that question. We don't spend as much time talking about the already existing exodus of working class New Yorkers. We're seeing New Yorkers leave this city, and a lot of it comes back to the cost of housing, the cost of childcare. I mean, when we're talking about childcare, families, 80% of families with children under the age of 5 can't afford childcare in this city. They're leaving to find a place where they can afford it.
But it's also the case, and I'll ask you about this, Morris, who's the rare rich person who wants to be taxed more, which amazing that we found you. There are a few of them. You know, New York, for people, for high earners in New York, rich folks, particularly high wage earners, is the highest tax jurisdiction in the country by far. In the world. Like, there's literally nowhere in the world that the marginal rate on a high income earner is higher than here. And that includes the social democracies of Europe, it includes places that have all sorts of services like you said. So at a certain point, is there a limit, right? Is there some point that you cross where you do start to pay some real economic costs?
I don't think that we are talking about that at this time. Frankly,
you just don't think we're near that limit?
I don't think that, when we talk about increasing personal income taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers by 2%, or we're talking about increasing the corporate tax on the most profitable corporations, a lot of times what we're talking about doesn't even come close to what the tax rates used to be in this city or used to be in this country, right? For all of the conversation of the now, we forget where we were in terms of this country's relationship to the tax.
Well, let me get Morris's thoughts first, because yes, I mean, we had 90% marginal rates under Eisenhower.
Sure. But there's the idea of rich people moving out. No, the whole point of being rich is you can live wherever you want. I live exactly where I want to live, in a co-op on Park Avenue.
Yeah.
The people I'm afraid are moving out, like the teachers. I have a granddaughter who goes to PS 163 right on the west side here. I want to make sure that they can afford to live in the city. I want to make sure the city can provide those services. The services like buses, like groceries, like hospitals and museums, and all the things that the people need that make New York such a place that rich people are from all over the world are moving into New York, and middle-class people who want to have kids are moving out of New York where they can afford childcare.
Let me say this in defense of the pied-à-terre tax, as you've been calling it, the second home tax, right? It does strike me as being designed in such, it's not, there's other taxes that would be on income, right, or on businesses. It does strike me as designed to hit folks that really do have quite a bit of money and aren't even really living here.
I don't disagree with that, but I think what you have to put this in the context of is we cannot let the federal government off the hook. In 2018, as a result of the first Trump tax reform, we lost, after 100 years of being able to deduct most of our state and local taxes as a taxpayer, we lost that deductibility. That alone doubled the tax burden of New York City residents on their New York City tax. So it isn't like we haven't had a major tax increase. And those are the kind of things that we have to look at, is sort of what has the federal government quit doing that the city is now being forced to do, like adequate supply of food, like adequate supply of housing. We have to refocus, because a local tax base can never make up. We can't print money like the federal government.
This is a great point, right? Because there's a little bit of the limits of like socialism in one city kind of thing, right? Which is, you're not the federal government, and it is a very unequal place. It's probably the most unequal place, I think, in America, likely. How much can you build here without the federal government?
I think that we're looking to get right up to that limit of everything that we can do. And the reason I say that is that one of the most frustrating things you can tell a New Yorker when they ask you for help is, that's actually not my jurisdiction.
Yeah.
That's a federal issue. That's a local issue. That's a state issue. New Yorkers don't have time for the technical differences between what government sector is responsible for what thing. They want to know, what are you going to do about it? And so I know that this federal government has not had much interest in providing in the kinds of things that we're talking about.
No.
They have provided incredible tax cuts for the wealthiest across this country. And we're looking at a level of inequality right here in the engine of this country's economy. So we're going to do everything we can to make this a livable city, and we're going to do it by asking ourselves, what are the non-negotiables for New Yorkers? How can we deliver them?
Let me. Last thing, it occurred to me, you're talking about this sort of flight question, right? Which is, and there's been interesting studies, right? In Massachusetts, they had taxes on millionaires. Did people leave Massachusetts? The same way that the airline wants to make your ride as absolutely unenjoyable, just to the point that you won't stop flying on them, that like the optimal taxation level on rich people is like that. It's like the airline game. Like, how much can we do it right before you stop, right before you pick up and leave?
Well,
is that the way to do it?
I think this actually goes back to the question that we had earlier from the New Yorker that I had met on Fordham Road, where he said, I want to know where these taxes are going. For me, the importance of this is to deliver a quality of service that is unparalleled in this country. We're talking about earning people's trust of living in this city.